Good evening and welcome to another provocative episode of Taboo Talks, the place to be for free-flowing, candid, and deep conversations on topics that people often avoid publicly. We are not here to try and convince anyone one way or the other, nor are we here to read news or to act as a well-produced information bulletin. We are here to listen, discuss, and explore different perspectives, especially controversial views, so we can all be better represented to foster greater meaning and respect for those with differing opinions. Basically, we are about opening discussions and questioning closed minds. I am your host, Drea Renault, and for tonight's topic, we are going into the womb. That's a bad joke. But seriously, abortion is a deeply divided and controversial issue. You may have heard of the political labels called pro-life and pro-choice. Pro-lifers believe that women do not have a right to choose whether or not to give birth, and that abortion is wrong in all circumstances, citing the immorality of taking human life. Pro-choice advocates believe that everyone has the basic human right to decide whether or not to have children. They believe it is for a woman to choose and have the right to an abortion as an option for an unplanned pregnancy, even if they wouldn't choose abortion for themselves. Some 50 years after the case of Roe versus Wade and the US Supreme Court ruling that made abortion in the United States a constitutional right, the landmark of 1973 is now dangerously close to being overturned, meaning that abortion could be soon illegal in the United States. You may be wondering, well, what does this have to do with we? Well, because whether we like it or not, American politics significantly influences how governments around the world respond to social issues. As it stands, abortion in Belize is considered a criminal offense, except when performed by a registered medical practitioner, and only when the continuance of the pregnancy would involve risk to the life of the pregnant woman, or if it would cause injury to the physical or mental health of the pregnant woman or any existent children of her family, greater than if the pregnancy were terminated. Tonight's topic is abortion versus social entrapment. We will discuss the deep-rooted religious and cultural beliefs that drive strong views on the topic of abortion. But we will also get into the very taboo discussion about how children and the unborn are used as pawns to manipulate partners, social relationships, and sometimes welfare and charitable initiatives. It's a good one tonight. Once again, we have quite a cross-section of panelists tonight to ensure that we get a diverse view on the topic. Please introduce yourselves, guys. Welcome. I'll start over here.
All right. Hi, my name is Kyla Ciego. I am a program director for Belize Family Life Association, but I've been working in youth development, the social field from I was 16 as a volunteer. So I've been doing this for quite a while, and I enjoy working with young people.
Thank you so much for being here.
And thank you for having me, of course. My name is Armando Perez. I'm 28 years old. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm originally from Belize City. I have a long list of things to say, but I'll just move it forward.
Okay.
My name is Kristen Vernon. I am a woman in STEM. I am originally from here, right in Belize City, and I have opinions on this.
We got opinions. So, okay, so let me begin with the obvious question. Where do you stand on the debate? Are you pro-life or are you pro-choice? I will start with you.
I am firmly pro-choice.
Okay. I'll just ask, you know what I'll do? I'll ask what you are, and then afterwards I'll ask why.
Why?
Okay.
What are you?
I am pro-choice.
Pro-choice. What about you?
I'm pro-life.
Pro-life. Okay. So if you don't mind me asking, obviously, we're on a national show.
Sure.
Why would you say that you are pro-choice? Give me like the number one reason why you are pro-choice.
I'm pro-choice because I believe that it is a woman's body, and it's absolutely a woman's choice what she does with it, and how she chooses to shape her future from there on in. Things happen. We've all been in certain situations that we don't want to be in, and I don't believe that the rest of our lives should be shaped by something that we have the tools that we can go back and be like, you know, we have our safe accesses to these things, we should use them.
All right. How about you? You say you work at BFLA, right? So
yeah.
you see this often.
I
assume.
do, but even from both the professional standpoint and the personal standpoint, I am pro-choice because I believe that this belongs to me. And too long, women have been subject and oppressed by persons who don't share our same experiences, and they've made decisions for us. And so I think that the decisions related to my body are mine, and mine only. And so with that, I think that the bodily autonomy is very important. Other people shouldn't make decisions over your body.
How about you? Why are you why would you say you're pro-life?
I'm pro-life simply because life begins at inception, and I'm against murder. It's as simple as that.
Okay. All right. Well, so let me further take the question, and I want to ask, do you feel that society dynamics play on why you've chosen your stance, or is it a personal, I'd say, ideology of yours? Or is it really and truly because you have experienced things outside of yourself, or is it because this is what you really believe? I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, we start with me. Okay. Perfect. At the beginning, I didn't really have anything to say about it. You can do what you want. I've grown up in a Christian household, and I would say all I know is the Ten Commandments, the moral law. And later on, like just a few months ago, I started looking into it because it came up a lot. And I started to decide to actually make decisions for myself, saying that, wait, this is based on science. Most of the things that people are saying, it's not a life. But I'm saying, yes, it is a life.
So for you, life begins at, you said,
Conception.
Yes. You want, okay. All right. Do you think that you would have the same views if we were in a matriarchal society as opposed to a patriarchal one? Meaning, do you feel that a lot of the religious and moral views that maybe lead to pro-life have to do with the way our political and religious systems are in place?
I don't think so. I think I would be mainly on the right side, or what we call a conservative, because I think that's who I am. I don't think I would be freely and go with choice. So I don't think it would change, because I'm mainly siding with science.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to take the question over to you. Do you think that our society as a patriarchy, because we know that it is, has anything to do with the debate in general, or what's happening, let's say, in the US?
Absolutely. I believe that, listen, if men could get pregnant, we could get abortions at 8 a.m. I swear. It is absolutely a case where they are not affected, and they believe that, well, they as in the people that run the people that run our society are Muslim men. And as we can see, I mean, now we have an overturning of Roe v. Wade in the US, and in places where the top of the government is a woman, those places, they have what? They have universal health care, and they have these accesses for women, and they have, you know, you can get birth control included in your insurance plan, and everybody has insurance, you know. So I absolutely believe that it's a case where, yes, you don't experience this, so your belief system takes over like reality.
Okay. So I have a question for you, because I feel like I have my personal experiences on this topic, and I'm really unabashed to say that I've had an abortion before. Granted, it was a chemical or like a medication as opposed to a procedure, but I've done it before, and I have my reasons for why. But I want to ask you the question. So the premise of pro-life is you are a murderer, essentially, right? How do you see that like let's say premise play out in real life situations, like the people that come into your office every day?
I mean, there was a time when the organization that I worked for, there would be persons who literally would go there to our office and pray for the deliverance of our souls because we are murderers. And even though that was before my employment with the organization, there are schools that are, you know, we have a church state system. And so there are schools run by certain denominations that do not allow us to go in and talk to the students. And we do more than talk about sexual and reproductive health, right? But they don't because of the perception, as you mentioned, that it is murder, and anybody that facilitates that process is aiding murder, right? I think the discourse around the stigma about abortion is very much still existent. And so a lot of times the persons who do reach out to us for abortion care services, it's after breaking down their own wall and being afraid to come because it's so prevalent, the ideas that we have, the stigma that's created, you know. And it's very harmful because then what we're doing is contributing to persons engaging in unsafe abortions,
Right.
which could be life-threatening. And, you know, I know girls that have died because of unsafe abortions. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Okay. So let me ask you, as unfortunately you're the only representation of
It's
a
okay. It's okay.
pro-lifer.
And I happen to be a guy.
And you happen to be a guy, exactly. I'm going to ask you a personal question.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a situation where you would have to consider an unplanned pregnancy or an unwanted pregnancy yourself?
I've
with a
never
partner?
been in that situation where I had to do it, but I've been in a situation where the conversation did come up.
With someone close to you, I
yes.
imagine like a family member or a close friend.
Yes.
Okay.
But not with me personally, no.
No, okay. So I guess my question to you, because I can say I'm definitely not pro-life. I am more so pro-choice, but I want to go further and say I'm pro-voice. I very much believe that everything is situational and subjective. And I very much believe that, you know, what somebody would consider, let's say, murder could just be collateral circumstance. You know what I mean? So my question to you really would be, what would you say to, let's say, a woman that finds herself in a particular situation where she happens to be pregnant not by choice, and further than, let's say, a rape or a sexual assault, it was more like, let's say, incest. What would you say to her? Would her terminating her pregnancy be still murder? Would it still be immoral? Or do you think that there is room for it being situational?
Man, you take out the big guns already. I love it. I love it. But before I go there, I wanted to say about the Roe versus Wade, and that it's mainly men making the decision. Roe versus Wade 50 years ago was decided by men in the Supreme Court. Just going to put that out there. The topic when it comes to rape and incest, this is a very sensitive topic, of course. Personally, I believe that the rapist should be killed and the mother should be counseled. You shouldn't kill the baby for the criminal that the father did. So that's my personal opinion. The person should still have that child, and the child shouldn't be punished for the crime the father did.
Okay. So there's like a dichotomy where, like, okay, so the child doesn't have the blame, it's the perpetuator, he should be punished.
Yes.
What about the afterbirth? Like, how would you constitute it being okay for, let's say, this child to be raised? How does this child raised? He or she is a product of incest. More than likely there is no social economic backing. More than likely there is no psychological balance or support in the household, and more than likely it's not a good environment for this child to be raised in. This child could be raised to be another perpetrator, let's say, you know. What would you say to that argument that, okay, you are saying that the child needs to come forth, but how is that child raised? What kind of life are you subjecting the child to?
That's a great question. Actually, I don't know what system we have for normal kids. What system do we have for normal kids not to be rapists? What system do we have for a normal kid not to be a murderer? I don't know what system we currently have for normal kids, people who decide to have their kids, who want to have planned out pregnancy, gone through the right way. I don't know what systems they have personally. So I don't know what system they have for people who went through those traumatic experience. Obviously, they would need counseling for that. I've been seen instance where people who were products of incest or rape come up and grow and be grateful for life. They're grateful that they're alive. They're grateful that their mother didn't decide, I'm gonna kill you because your dad raped me. That's my personal experience from it. That's what I've seen.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, I have another question. I think we went, like you said, big guns don't come out, we got deep. Right. We'll make it come back up to shore, right? Because I feel like that is something that we can dissect.
Yes.
By detail. So let me ask, if I've been developing or I've been looking for, let's say, country statistics about abortion, but what is really happening, I don't know. Like, we don't actually have statistics when you really think about it.
We do, it's just not public. If we do, it's just not published.
I've been researching.
Maybe not easily accessible to the public. I mean, within our public health system, the Ministry of Health, they do have data in terms of the number of persons who end up at the ER for abortion. And then there's, when you talk about abortion in the medical sense, you have induced abortion, and then of course you have what we call miscarriages, which is also, you know, the spontaneous, right? So there is data on persons who present to the medical facility that is just not easily accessible.
But in Belize, right?
Yeah.
See, the problem. It's not only in there, but a lot of things when it comes to land, but that whole topic went on. Belize, it's always hard to access information.
Right. I just like your shirt.
Yes, and it was very intentional.
Listen, okay, so it's the hanger and the red Fanta thing, right?
Yeah.
You've heard that before?
Yeah.
Isn't it like Monsters Ball or something like that?
I have no idea. I just know that red Fanta play a role in it at some point.
I'll mix, yes,
right.
but definitely.
And I feel like that goes to the question of safety. So when obviously something is legal, something is safer.
Yes.
Right? When it's illegal, it's unsafe. And as long as we have society, as long as we have men and women, we will have reproduction, whether it's wanted or not. So to say that we can eradicate something like abortion is, I don't think, feasible. So what would you say to a pro-lifer about banning abortion or making abortion illegal, and that directly meaning unsafe deaths? Or like deaths due to.
Well,
where's the difference between murder of, like, let's say an unborn fetus or baby or whatever you want to call it,
right,
or, you know, the disregard for a woman's life and choice?
Well, in our laws, like you said, they specifically state that if there would be danger, not only to their physical health, but also to their mental health, that a medical practitioner could deem it necessary to abort the child, right? I know that in medical terms, there is, after a certain amount of time, after conception, that there is actually a heartbeat, or there is actually signs of life, right? And to me, in my personal opinion, I believe that, I mean, that's no different than you have a tapeworm in you and you get rid of it. So
Boy, I want to drink my rum and coke like Mr. Sutherland. I can't catch tapeworm when I drink rum and coke.
But to me, up until that point, there is no, that is not a child to me. That is a fetus. That is a product. You don't consider a sperm something that's alive in you, and men, they get rid of that any which way.
In a socks,
in all kind of
whatever, wherever it goes.
So, and then So up until the point that when the when the sperm meet the egg, now all of a sudden now a human, right? No, they have a process to it.
Right.
So and that's why we have doctors who say that up until this point, then there is no sign of life. And then even after that point, we have instances where this cannot be viable
Right.
after.
Like let's say there are developmental issues or
Absolutely.
Okay.
They now develop on brain, or and then you have cases like ectopic pregnancies, where they grow in the tube.
fallopian tubes, yeah.
Correct. So there's a lot of gray areas.
Right.
Also, but to me, it's even with all of those circumstances, I still believe. Look, if you have a 16-year-old and you got meet your boyfriend and you and your boyfriend get together, I don't know, do something when I never really supposed to do it. Now you're in another situation. There is that argument of what if this child become a doctor, or that to me that bullshit, because what if this 16-year-old could become a doctor? Why can't we give her back her future? No, now we have to subject her to how this 16-year-old will raise one child.
Right. Okay. So actually that takes me into the other question, because there's a lot of debate over what abortion even is, right? We're talking about we were talking first about sentience. When is it a human life? But I want to know what abortion really is, because some people say that contraceptives are immoral, right? The morning after pill sometimes is confused with the abortion pill. I know the difference very well. I know the difference very well. Girl, once a 72 hours, oh girl, you start to pray for real, and I know to pray for saving. I pray for my life.
Yeah.
What's the difference? And I'm going to ask the BFLE young lady.
Yes.
What's the difference between the abortion pill and the
Emergency
morning
contraceptive.
emergency
All right.
contraceptive?
So at the end of the day, it's night, but
At the end of the day, it's
abortion-
night.
Correct.
abortion is just the termination of a pregnancy,
Right.
right? So, and people do think that the morning after pill terminates pregnancy. It does not. The emergency contraceptive pill, it has properties in it that kind of affect the lining of your uterus. So once the egg and the sperm have fused, it travels and then it plants itself in the
uterine
womb,
wall,
right?
yeah.
So what the emergency contraceptive pill does is that it kind of affects the uterus so that it can't implant, right? So that's how that works. So if you're already pregnant and it's implanted,
Nothing
it
you
won't
could do.
remove it or
Right.
anything like that. That's not how it works. So it just prevents the zygote, that's what it's called, from being implanted if you do it within that very 72-hour period that you need to get it done.
Right. Whilst the abortion bill does actually terminate.
Yeah, so
pregnancy.
I mean, when it comes to abortion, there are what we call the medical, which is the pill that you take, and then the surgical procedure. And so the pill only works once you're a certain number of weeks. If it's progressed, then you need a more invasive procedure. And so what the pill does is it tells your uterus to contract, and that contracting squeezes and enters the contents of the uterus, right? And so if you're further along, then you have to have a more invasive procedure that would go in and vacuum aspirate the
Right.
products, the contents of the uterus.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good differentiation, because a lot of people literally do
Yeah,
not
people
know
think
the
that EC,
difference.
after that, it won't do anything if you're done pregnant.
Right. I know.
Yeah.
All right. So my next question now is abortion a we decision or a my decision? I know what you think. I know what you think. I want to know what you think.
Okay.
Is it a woman's decision? Or
Let's
is it,
hear from them first then.
I don't know that. I don't know what I'm saying. I already
I
know.
say it's my decision, it's my body.
Yeah.
It's my decision, absolutely.
Okay, is it a
Alright.
we decision or is it a my decision? And I want to know why.
All right, so I want to clarify some stuff. When it comes to abortion, right? This is my belief again, not everybody, just like you guys said, all pro-lifers believe that abortion should be completely abolished. But no, there is a situation where the mother's life is in danger. That's the only time that abortion should be done.
Okay.
Again, that's my belief. It's not, but most of the abortions that are being done are just because I'm already fit, I'm a planned fit, something come up, this is a mistake. That's majority of the abortions. So that's what I'm against. Not against the one that says the mother's life is in danger, we need to have a medical abortion. All right. So let's go back to your question. I just wanted to clarify that I'm not completely against everything. Just,
so you're saying that there is a circumstance
Yes,
where you would say this is the right decision?
yes.
Okay.
And that's, again, that's the only time I think they should.
All right. So do you think it's now down to a, like, let's say that woman that has some type of, maybe she has a utopic pregnancy, maybe she has some type of complication where she needs to terminate this pregnancy because her life is in danger. Is that a her decision or is that a everybody decision?
That's a her decision in that specific situation.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And then we can't just open it all for free for all, because then that's when the problem start to happen. And then we start to see what's happening in the US with all the things that Planned Parenthood do, because there are documentaries about this where Planned Parenthood can only make money if they really have abortion, really make money if they do abortions. There's undercover videos of people, of women going into Planned Parenthood pretending to be underage, so like 12, 13, pretending to be pregnant and saying that the guy's 20 or he's above legal age in the US. And they have like secret cameras on them, and the abortionists, or I'm not sure what you would call them, the person at the front desk. I don't know who specifically. No, I'm not sure who specifically they're talking to. Like if it's the secretary,
The abortionist.
I'm not sure who. At that specific time,
The person
is
with the wire
convincing
hanger.
them to do it. I'm not sure who that was, but that specific person was convincing them, just write on your paper that you're older, and so that you guys don't have to push this to court, because then after, of course, she's underage. So, and again, she's just pretending. So these are the things that are happening there when it becomes free for all. That you can have an abortion for any reason, for whatever reason. Oh, I just had too much to drink on Thursday, and Friday I made a baby so I could get rid of it. That's what happens when we say free for all. That's what happens in the US. I've seen the news where a woman went on live TV taking an abortion pill. And she said, proudly looking into the camera, this is going to be my third abortion. That's where I stand. It becomes a we decision when it becomes free for all.
You feel like so what you're saying is like when it perpetuates immorality.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
You feel and people aren't, let's say, responsible for their own actions. You feel like that's the main reason why you would like condemn it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That is very interesting, but we can't dissect that just yet because we have to go on a commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Taboo Talks. I'm your host, Drea. This evening, we are discussing abortion versus social entrapment. Before we left, we were talking to Armando, and he was talking about how the prevalence of immorality seems to spread when we, have things like free
for all.
For all. That's what he said, right? Free for all. And that takes me, and I said I wanted to dissect that a little bit further. And in the break, we were talking about sexual health responsibility, right? We were talking about, somebody freely going on live and saying, this is my third, what? Abortion, and taking the pill on live. And I can somewhat lean to your side when it comes to the responsibility of making good choices when it comes to your sexual reproductive health. I want to ask you, because I know, like you said off camera, you're like, nope, you should be able to pop those babies if you want to.
Whenever I want. No.
But like
I do believe that there is some level of sexual responsibility that you do need to have.
Right.
But when we talk about having access to these tools, we also talk about having access to birth control, having access to Plan B. And
to sexual education.
to sexual education, exactly. Because we've had a conversation whereby, you know, most of our schools are religious based. Most of our schools are
we
Catholic.
We all went to some kind of religious school here.
And the sex ed is always abstain. And that no work. No, you need to teach your children about condoms, you need to teach your children about birth control. Because they grow up and then they don't know about their things, and then they go to the pharmacies or whatever, and they know,
Yeah.
no, I can't do that because what they think about me? Why should anybody think anything about you? I remember I did a work and I put my birth control front of all, and I work in programming, I work in IT. So all of my coworkers then are man. And they're like, how you could just do that? And I'm like, that for me? What you to worry about?
That my daily medication.
Yeah. So I know, I do believe that there is all of that will come with this progress.
Right.
If we do open it to, and then like you mentioned Planned Parenthood, I believe that one lot of those, one lot of what you said, you know, my head, I'd like, what's wrong with that?
Right. They were trying to help the situation.
Yeah, the Planned Parenthood, they help, and they have counselors there, and they have people where they have doctors where you could go talk to and be like, what does one do to my health? And that's how I started birth control. I went to a doctor and I asked how I could take this, this is my medical history. What you think if this one be safe for me? I had that conversation with one doctor. But a lot of that have to do with the fact that I privileged enough that I could go to medical associates and I could go sit down with one guy now.
Pay the $50, $100.
And I could pay the $50.
Yeah.
And in 2 weeks, that now mean nothing to me. Well, a lot of our youth now have that privilege. A lot of our people now have that privilege.
Right.
So even though, yes, we do need to have some conversation about sexual responsibility, but we also need to open up things like healthcare, and we also need to better our sexual education in our high schools, and all of that need to be included in this conversation.
I could literally speak to that because I was a assistant counselor for like a year.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been in that. Nobody knows this. People just think I, just frou-frou and like just live a superficial life. But I actually have a degree in clinical psychology. So like a lot of the time that I've spent, it's been with young women. And the fact that their sexual education is so stunted to the point of they only know what they know based on what their boyfriend at the time they tell them, or what their girlfriends are saying, or porn, because it's easily accessible. And I find that women in general are very ashamed about their reproductive health.
Yes, exactly.
And why do you think that is?
I think that is because we were brought up in a patriarchal society.
Thank you.
Where the female body is almost an object. An object subject to other people's opinions.
Yes.
Whether it be about your body, the way it looks, or the way it functions. I really do and truly believe, because I have lived it, that we aren't very educated when it comes to our actual bodies and the way it works.
A big part of the work that I do is around comprehensive sexuality education. And that's everything from talking about relationship, values, gender-based violence, diversity, everything under sexual and reproductive health, even cyber safety generally. And it's because of these reasons. So last year, just a little diversion, last year I was super excited through my organization to introduce menstrual cups
Wow. I'm
And
scared of
so-
menstrual cups, actually. Go ahead.
It's the best thing. You will never
Afraid.
use tampon pad, nothing like that
I
again.
always want to try. But
Yes.
I never got around to it.
Call me at BFLA and I'll
Okay.
tell you about
Okay.
it. Yes.
It seems messy to me. Sorry, babes. It
No,
seems
no,
messy to me.
actually, I knew about it, and I've heard wonders
Good
about
job.
the cup.
Exactly.
I've heard wonders
Good
about the
job.
cup.
We're not
so
only
actually, it's
supporting-
better than tampon.
We're not
so.
supporting women. We're
It's
supporting
eco-friendly.
Yes,
the,
it is as
the
well.
environment.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, we had to have a lot of discussion with women and things that are natural biological process. Like, we're not comfortable with our bodies, we're not comfortable with blood and all of these things, and so it takes a lot. And I like what Chris said. It's bravery to reach that point to go to a medical facility, and a lot of us don't have that kind of empowerment.
Right.
To take that first step and to take action with our health or to ask questions. And then on the other side, and like I said earlier, like the society is not that helpful, because then who can you go to ask questions
Right.
without being judged? Because that's the important part, right? And
Right.
all of this is a part of our human rights, basic human rights, to be able to access information and services. So I hear what Armando says in terms of like a free-for-all with abortion and all of these things. But actually, when we look at global data, in countries where abortion is legal, and we have like Cuba, we have Guyana, right here in our region, it's not like the abortion rates are sky high. It's you as a state giving the citizens of your state their sexual and reproductive right, which is to access health care. Abortion care is health care. And so when we restrict abortion services, we're not reducing anything, we're making it more dangerous, right? So that's what we're doing. And of course, people need to be responsible with their actions. And so, like, I know for many providers that provide abortion services, if you come for an abortion service, then you're also encouraged, well, how can we prevent an unwanted pregnancy? And
To
we use
reoccur,
contraception to do that, you know? So I just wanted to add that as well.
Thank you for adding that.
Yeah.
My next question actually, I think will take that social responsibility and the idea of, let's say, sexual responsibility a little further. And I want to ask the only pro-lifer here, I'm really sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's
I
okay.
want to ask you, right, like, does your, let's say, does your side offer any kind of aid to the lives of the fetuses that you champion so much? And I think I asked you this question before when you said, oh, you bring out the big guns. Like, what happens after they're born? Or do you think that the buck stops after, okay, ban, well, we did our job, poof, all right, have a good life, pro-life. You know what I mean? Like, what happens afterwards? And I asked you that question already, like, okay, they didn't murder the fetus. Now it's born. What happens after?
Like, when normal pregnancy happen, you raise a child. Because the same thing, like I told you before, I don't know what programs they have for normal pregnancies, for people who planned it. I also know nobody go help me. And I don't know. Like I'm saying, I don't know. So I really don't know what happens after. But again, I'm just simply against murder. Because I'm not against condoms and contraceptives at all. These information is very important. And again, I want to go back to the churches. The churches have been done a bad job of explaining sexual reproduction. I agree with that. They've done a bad job at doing it. Because they just like, oh, abstain, that's it. But what happens if you fail that test? Then that's where responsibility comes in, and that's where education comes in. So again, I'm only against just killing the child for just, oh, I can't plan. That's it.
I think a lot of other people would say adoption, or give it to auntie or something like that. But if you think about adoption in like a formal sense, where, you know, oh, you give up the baby for adoption and the state becomes responsible. I mean, life in a facility is not, that's not it. Right? And so I think earlier Chris was also alluding to that same thing. You can't determine if this person will be a prime minister or, well, whatever the case might be. And even regular children that, you know, the unwanted pregnancy proceeds, and the kind of traumatic things you have to experience in our life that, like, it would just be better if you did not have to go through all of that, to be honest. So the support system, people might say, well, give it up for adoption, but you don't know if that's actually a better option, you know, so.
I mean, come on, spade on spade. The poverty in Belize is already at a critical point. We just, you just perpetuate it. You just they create. You force their children, because a lot of the time they're not children, they're not 16, 17, 18-year-olds.
Right.
They can't take care of themselves. How you expect them to raise one child? How you expect them to instill any kind of responsibility in their children? I think it's best to instead rehabilitate them. They're not already children, rehabilitate their children instead.
I see. And it takes me to it takes me further again to like even like a even more muddled situation where I find that sometimes let's say an unwanted pregnancy could actually be a wanted manipulation. Do you know what I mean? In the sense that sometimes women and men impregnate, or women try to get pregnant in order to either, like, let's say, keep a partner, or get benefits of some kind from the state or a church or a program, or sympathy. Simple as like, oh, I'm pregnant and I don't know what to do, and you know, basically get free food and free things from an organization, let's say Seed of Life or whatever, right? You know what I mean? I know I have seen this before. For a fact, have you guys seen any of this before?
Absolutely.
Yes?
Absolutely.
I think in a direct sense, on the other hand, in a way where like the person is constantly impregnating someone, but it's like a part of violence, right? And keeping the cycle of violence, right? So I'll tie you down with all of these kids. So I've seen it in that sense, but not in like, I don't want to call it a positive light, but the person actually wanting to become pregnant for someone else. I've seen it in a violent kind of sense, yeah.
So far in this conversation, we have been talking about from the woman's perspective, and we've been putting the onus on the woman, but there's also, I mean, it takes two for tango. And if you, as a man, I mean, they also have the conversation where if you as a man don't want to get trapped with this person who just want to end up to use you, you gotta leave that money, you got a stable job, and this woman said that, and they're like, I could use me some of that. Wrap it up.
Right, and I feel like that goes to the premise of like, okay, if let's say abortion should be illegal, then impregnating a woman that is not your partner should be illegal too. Then having unprotected sex should be illegal too. And that's my stance.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Because if we really look at it, there are a lot of hypocrisies. Even if it's on the pro-life side, I mean, obviously as somebody on the other side, I can see the hypocrisies from here, but I can also see our hypocrisies, especially when it comes to determining when sentience happens. Basically, when is a life, right? And that's the only instance where I can maybe say, I don't know. Because, like you were talking about, like, okay, well, if it's life at conception, then, okay, what happened to the sperm and the eggs that are spontaneously, like, just thrown about? Or, you know, what happens to the zygote if it's implanted in the fallopian tube? There are all of these, let's say, scenarios that are possible that really and truly you can't put a line on when is this a sentient being and when is it murder and it's not. And that's that's all I can say on my side. I can see that hypocrisy. But when it comes to, and I'm sorry Armando, but when it comes to pro-life, I kind of feel like, okay, well, the perpetrator could dead, but the baby have to live. Live what kind of life? That is my question. That is incredibly subjective and incredibly circumstantial. So my question is, what constitutes people being fit to raise a child? When is it okay for, let's say, all right, I'm 16, my boyfriend was 22, you know, we met back at Dolphin Park or whatever, you know, and I can't tell my parents, so I'm far along now. I'm like beyond
Right.
the abortion pill. I am pregnant. Oh my gosh, what do I do? Like, where is that? Like, where is it that line that says, okay, the responsible thing to do is this, and the responsible thing to do is that? That's my general question to everybody who want to jump in, jump in.
I think, yeah, that's just so subjective. I mean, as somebody who got pregnant at 19, freaking out, come from a very religious family. Matter of fact, was in the church youth group at the time. So it was like a whole emotional roller coaster, right? My son is 10, and it's interesting that we've been growing together, right? But it's totally subjective in terms of determining, like, am I prepared? I was not prepared, but my saving grace really was my mother and my family, my dad. So then I the one were like, all right, you know what? We do not care what other people got to say. We'll just deal with this. And so I had that kind of support where other people never have. If I never have that, then it was definitely probably going to be a different kind of situation.
So you didn't feel trapped by society at all?
I did still,
Okay.
because of I still had to do the walk of shame.
Right.
You know, and just all the kinds of things that was said about me at the time. You know, very traumatic for a young person to have to experience that.
Yeah.
But I had support, so we worked it out. But everybody don't have that. And so I think determining, do I become a parent? And then you have to grow up, because at 19, they're like, okay, I still go to school and figure out my life. And they're like, you got to speak now, and then it's not about you. And then you have to grow up, right? And so that's not so easy to do. And fortunately or unfortunately, because there are women who are not good mothers, but we as women, in most cases, stick it out, where men have an option to opt out, right? And deadbeat dads everywhere. So, like, I think it's very subjective, and people have to consider what is the support around them. We've been speaking about, well, the baby ban, and then what happens, you know. So the support around you really, that will help you figure out parenting, and it's a continuing process, because I don't think I'm really good at it that much anyways, but we did go long.
No parenting like that.
Right? So.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to the same question of, is it my decision or a we decision? Because let's say you are in a committed relationship, right? This is a scenario. You're in a committed relationship, you go long time. You are not 19. Let's say you're 25. Right? Let's say you don't graduate college and everything. You find out you're pregnant. The woman finds out she's pregnant. She's in a committed relationship, live together and everything. Is it a her decision, or is it I'm a couple and we need to talk about this decision? And that's the real question.
Yeah.
Because in certain circumstances, I'd be like, you don't have to know nothing. But in others, it's like you said, it takes two to tango, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right? We did this act together, knowing the risks, obviously, whether we were conscious of it or not in the moment. But we knew our risk. At this point, I am pregnant. None of us want this pregnancy, right? Ideally. Is it something where the couple makes that decision, or ultimately the woman has to live with that decision?
I mean, it's a woman's decision. However, because of my experience in terms of working with children who do not have father figures, or they do not have that relationship with both parents, and the role of a father is so important in the lives of their children. So from that space, I think that it would be a responsible thing to do, to consult with the other partner, like to give men a say. There's so many times, like, okay, men, they don't want to be apart, and then they're harassed for that. But
Waste man.
yeah.
Waste man mentality.
But
Of course.
if there's an opportunity to give him from the get-go, like a chance to have a say, to be a part, he's just as much responsible for this pregnancy as the woman is. I think that person should be given that, you know.
But then, you know,
What do you think?
a lot of men are fickle, man. They'll be like, yes, I want this baby. I want to be a good dad to this baby, babe. No worry. And then the baby come and
Karate.
peace.
I got somebody else pregnant. Too.
You know, next thing, I know people like that where they have somebody pregnant. Yeah, and then they got somebody pregnant in the States. Like, You know, like words are what they are, the words, they mean nothing. You know, my own household, me and my boyfriend, we live together and we have this conversation, and it's, in our household, it's very much, yes, that me and decide if I do get pregnant, that me and decide if I get this or not. But I do believe that there is nothing wrong with be like, what do you think? Do you want we do this? You want we go through with this? Or you want we just
Right.
you know, get rid of this and continue on with our lives? But ultimately, at the end of the day, that's it. That all I think, the we option, that's all I think it is. It's that I want to consult with you, but
It's
at
a
the
courtesy.
end,
It's still my decision.
it's still my decision. That's I firmly believe that.
What do you think?
I agree with her that it is a we decision. You guys are in a committed relationship. You agreed to do this. So yes, you have to have, as a male, you're supposed to have a say in this. And then also what she was saying about a man just go out and go pregnant, with adult women. I see women do the same thing too.
But I'd say this: women could get pregnant. Correct me if I'm wrong. 3 to 5 days a month. Men could pregnant one woman
Every day, every
365 days a
Every
year.
time.
Yeah, but I mean, I've seen women do the same thing too. So it's not just men.
I mean, of course. I mean, I've said that women absolutely. I mean, I've seen it done before. That a woman they think go and that thing nice, and they go put it on a man, and they want to say nothing. They just take it, and then whoop, I'm pregnant.
But
Do that for me now.
right,
You
but real
know?
quick, okay, so there's also the dynamic of men literally getting women pregnant without their wanting to be pregnant, just to say, well, you that for me now, and also still doing that with other women. Like, I have seen that too. Like,
I've seen that as well.
I've seen that where like the man finds a way to get the woman pregnant.
Or even pulling off condom during sex. Like,
Right.
I've seen
Right.
that. I know about that.
Exactly. So in that case, like, where
just
does the
out a
responsibility
pile.
of the man come in? And that's my question to the pro-lifer. Like, we talk about it being the woman's choice and it being our bodies, but at the same time, sometimes we are not in control of what is done to us. What do you say in those situations?
Well, first of all, you are in an act of reproducing another human. You just happen to have a plastic bag that stops that. And the responsible person that you think you're with is not fully responsible, and you can't keep his word. That's what I think about it.
So,
But you think in that case that, all right, well, he pulled off fast one for me, and now I'm pregnant. What do you think that in that case, yeah, she should have a abortion? What do you think?
No,
No?
she shouldn't.
Still.
I don't think she should.
Okay.
Again, the only time abortion is
Because-
accepted
Right.
is when a woman's life is in danger.
Because even though she did consent to sex, she did consent to safe sex. So in a sense, that's a
But
consensual
sex is a reproductive action. You're
But
doing
so
an
is rape.
activity that's making babies. You know they go play football. You know the risk.
Rape is also
Condom
a
can burst.
reproductive action.
Yeah, exactly. But
So-
rape's
so-
against that. And like I said,
Okay.
they shouldn't kill the baby. The rapist should be killed.
Okay.
so
Okay.
who would kill the rapist? Like, who is in the right to
Again,
kill the rapist?
it's not my policies.
If that
My
be me,
policies
I can't kill
is
the rapist. I'd be real. If we are dead.
Okay, so let's take a pause right now because I have a lot of things to say. Like, I need to think about it. I need to process it. Let's take a pause right now. We're going to come back after our final commercial break. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Taboo Talks. I am Verena. Just from our discussion this evening, it is clear that this topic of abortion will be a divisive issue for a long time to come. However, let's acknowledge the labels, the pro-choice and pro-life, as a segmentation that forces people into just two boxes for their religious, moral, political, and practical beliefs. In the topic of abortion, we're dealing with many insoluble and subjective questions. Rather than fighting against opposing convictions, we should try to understand the views of those directly affected by the matter, acknowledge our limitations, and even show a touch of grace and empathy for the women struggling through their own circumstances. There is still lots more to discuss on this topic, but we are almost out of time. So let me go around and get final thoughts from each of my panelists. I feel like we are maybe a little bit unbalanced in our views, obviously, right now, but I really would want a statement from you, even coming from the conversation we just had. Do you still feel the same way? Do you think that there are things that maybe you have to take into consideration when it comes to your viewpoint? Do you still stand with being a pro-lifer or a pro-choicer? And I will start off with you.
I am absolutely still firmly a pro-choicer, or whatever that is.
Right.
I think that, I can't say that I have anything in my mind that my conviction has changed, or anything that I can say that my opinion has maybe I can say that I have adjusted certain things, that because before it was black and white for me, but now I can see that there is some gray. And definitely, yes, I can say that there is, but at the end of the day, for me, it all comes down to the fact that if we have no access to abortion, then we should have access to everything else, which is not the case. So,
Okay, I hear you. What about you, ma'am?
Well, my position remains pro-choice means that whatever the woman decides, that is what I agree with. If she decides to keep a pregnancy, if she decides to terminate the pregnancy, that's her choice. I think one of the things that I want to leave for persons who are so judgmental and critical of people who do abortion, or just the whole idea about abortion, if you're coming from a religious perspective, I don't agree with this because you're a murderer, whatever the case. If you're using your religion as my weapon, I think most people are Christian. And of course, Christ said, I mean, I don't really read scripture like that, but I know he told them, who have the first stone, throw stone, or who does not, who has not sinned, cast the first stone. And nobody throw no stone because he taught us empathy. So when a woman is in a situation like this, and this is the option that she's faced with, your response should not be to judge and to condemn, but to have empathy. And I also want to say that restricting abortion access and services and all the stigma that we create about it, it's not gonna make it happen any less. It's just gonna make it more dangerous, because women are still gonna do it. Girls are still going to do it.
We're going to be forced to do it.
They're going to be forced to do it. And so always be open to listening to whatever situations people come with, or women come with in this kind of regard. And it's not cool to trap people with pregnancy and that kind of thing. They're like that, just out of order.
Yes, stop using children and the unborn.
Yeah, don't use children as pawns to keep people. That's not a healthy kind of relationship tactic.
And that leaves me. Yes. I love what you're doing. Education. Education is very important. A lot of people don't do it. And again, I've said it, the church has done a bad job about teaching about sex. Because what happens if I mess up that one rule, don't have sex after marriage, before marriage? We've done a bad job in doing that. What do we do when we fail that test? Again, I said the church has done a bad job in doing that. We're supposed to teach. That's, again, education from our perspective and education from your perspective. I have not changed my position against pro-life. Pro-life, because I believe we should protect the life. And the main problem with pro-choice, well, from the far left in the US, you guys are not far left, well, especially you, is they always say it's not life, it's a fetus. Fetus is Latin for baby. It's still a baby. You're saying if the sperm, the no life, and the egg, the no life, when they join, it becomes life. because you're not 100% of your mother, you're not 100% of your father. You're 50-50. When they join, that's when you're created. I guess that's my final point.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. Like I'm looking at her face. Do you want to interject? You may, okay?
I think when they join, that's still not called. It needs to have more breath and it needs to have more heartbeat.
Yeah, so
but
then
that not me.
That's where we draw the line.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're going to always, like I said, we're always going to have this discussion regardless of what our position is,
Yeah.
regardless of where we think life starts, regardless of whether we think if it's at conception, a heartbeat,
Yeah.
or sentient.
I also want to emphasize my point. I read just today in the U.S. Congress, the Republican Party, they voted in the House that there is a baby formula shortage, and they were voting on a budget to increase the budget so that they can make more baby formula, and they voted against that. So in one hand you're voting against,
To take away.
you're banning abortion, but in the same hand you're taking away access to
They said survival of the fittest. That's what they
survival
said.
of the fittest. So in my mind, if you want take one, you have to. If you want take, you have to give. So
If you're tech, you have to give. I like that. Thank you so much. Actually, if you want tech, you have to give.
exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your thoughts with us tonight. I know that different perspectives are difficult to hear when they are against our own. And I always champion neutrality. Like, I champion the idea that you can coexist with differing religions, differing political views, whatever. I think we can coexist, and it takes us being open to have these kind of conversations to make a positive difference in general, whether it be for or against you. At the end of the day, we need to be empathetic, not only to people in dire circumstances, but also to ourselves and the people around us. So anyway, you were awesome, and I am so happy that you all were available to come here. Thank you so much for subjecting yourself to us. You know, it could have been more violent, you know.
Yeah, it
like,
could've, but-
you could have like left here dead. Like, we could have murdered you, and then
Whose choice would that have been?
that would have been mine. So, so thank you so much for your diversity. Thank you again for those of you watching CBTV on Facebook. Thank you for tuning in. We do hope that tonight's discussion sparks some deep conversation in your home or at work or with the people around you. With that, we're signing off for tonight and hope to have you back next Thursday at 9 p.m. on CBTV or on Facebook. If you still want to hear more and if you want to record me or screenshot me, join me for After the Talk on IG Live right after tonight's episode. Good night.
Taboo Talks is sponsored by Vinotopia, Landshark Hard Seltzer, Design Depot, and Travelers Liquors.